Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great today. We're about to have a great live stream, but as you know, got to make sure our audio is good. Got to do an audio check. We're going to wait for some people to come in. Impromptu Facebook Live today. Impromptu Facebook Live today, guys. Getting in on a Saturday evening. There's no time to wait. There's no time to waste while we're building this company and doing the last bit of this offensive for the 2025 summer season. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for some people to come in. As you guys come in, just say where you're from. Appreciate you guys joining at this time. This is going to be a good one. So everybody watching live and everybody watching the replay. Again, guys, if you're new here, doing a quick audio check, so just bear with me. I'm going to get rolling here in probably like 5 minutes, so it'll be well worth the wait. Just waiting for some others to join. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this thing rolling here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. You all know the drill. Let's go ahead and get this sucker rolling. Okay. Again, running $1 million wholesaling company. Again, so guys, this is a follow up on the last stream I did earlier this week on building a 7-figure investment company. Now we're going to be talking about the nuts and bolts running this thing. What does it look like actually running this operation? Okay. So this is going to be great. Have a lot of gems in here. We're going to go over, this is what we're going to go over: the organization chart, team hierarchy first, owners' roles, and the roles of everybody on this organization chart. Okay. What are you supposed to be doing as an owner? See, this is where a lot of investors get tripped up. They want to be the ones who have control over everything. I don't think it's conscious, but they're used to being the ones. Maybe they don't want to be the ones. Rather, they're used to being the ones that have control over everything. And so they may be great at running the business, doing acquisitions, but it's a whole nother thing training somebody how to do that, and then monitoring and supervising them, and then holding yourself accountable so you're not working alongside of them, because at that point, what's the point of hiring them? Okay, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the people you need to bring on as you scale, right? So I'm going to give you guys the 30,000 foot view about where I'm at, right? Again, this is what I'm doing, and I'll share with you guys why my organization chart, why my team may look a little bit different from others. I'm really big on lean companies and not having any redundancies. What I've found is that a lot of investors have redundancies in their companies. What do I mean by that? So they may have 10 team members and 5 of them are doing the same thing, right? And they don't need to be doing it, right? So you may have somebody who's responsible for doing 2 cold callers. Both of them are doing dispo slash admin task, when you probably just need one to be a full-time dispo cold caller and the other one to be a full-time cold caller for sellers, and then find somebody else to do admin tasks. So we're going to talk about that. right? How to build this thing leanly. And also we're going to get to your questions. Already have had a couple of questions. People commented on the event prior. So we're going to get to that. And we're going to, the first question I have is about KPI tracking for your texting campaigns. So we're going to go over that on this call, and we will go on as long as you guys want. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here, which I already am, and put it on present the document here. Okay. Let me know if you guys have trouble viewing this. So let's get straight into it without further ado. Here's what my company looks like. So I'm the owner up top. So we're doing about 7 to 10 deals a month. Majority of these are from texting. And then I would say about 2 to 3 are from follow-up and cold calling. We may get lucky and get one cold call deal a month. But I look at my cold calling leads as follow-up leads now. Just like I don't expect those to convert, sooner than 120 days now. Seriously, guys. So my cold callers stack the pipeline up for later, right? It's not like I need my cold calling lead to convert now. If you guys are struggling to get deals under contract, it might be because you are your cold call leads. You essentially have your cold callers calling, and you don't have enough cold callers to get a property under contract in 1 month, right? So cold calling takes about 90 to 100 days, 120 days to convert. Okay. So next we have underneath me my executive assistant. So if any of you guys have communicated with me via email, my CC Garland marketing email, then you most likely have spoken to my executive assistant. And she is the one where she handles all my admin and outward facing. Again, you guys don't need this role. For me personally, I'm pretty much useless without a team, right? I realize that I'm great at the strategic level up top, but when it comes to execution, I try to find everybody to do things to do the tasks that I'm not good at and I don't excel at. Okay. And so I have an executive assistant because she helps a lot with not only the, everything inside of my current business. She helps with my other business models, helping me out with paying my bills, keeping me on track with that. And also just, scheduling hotels for me, travel and things like that. So she works in the company, but she isn't like working like super internally in the company. She helps me with skip tracing. So if you guys have used me for skip tracing, she'll skip trace your list. Great, pleasant person to be around. Then guys, we have my operations manager. Okay. So everything in blue, these are supervisors. And this is just based off of the key that I created here. Okay. Outside of this one, this should be blue. But the operations manager, this is really the technical person. If you were to hire somebody and you need like an admin assistant and you have a team, let's just say you have an acquisitions manager, a couple cold callers, and a lead manager, maybe, 4 to 5 employees, including yourself, you're probably going to need an operations manager. And that's another thing too. A lot of investors don't know what they need. I'll tell you this. You want somebody who just gets it and who's able to troubleshoot tools, who's able to keep your team accountable, right? That's going to be your operations manager. Your operations manager is going to be the one who goes in and actually gets their hands dirty and solves the problem, right? I can't tell you guys how many companies I've worked with as a consultant where they have had operations managers, or they've chose some operations manager, or had somebody trying to sit in that seat who was more of like a manager. And they could tell other people what to do, but they couldn't themselves go in and do it, or they were reluctant to do it. And I'm telling you guys, I'm big on personality types. You guys have heard me talk about this. If you've seen my content, heard me talk about this a lot. When it comes down to it, guys, I base my hires based off of personality types. And you all know, if you've been watching me for more than a couple months here, maybe over a year, I love the ISTJ personality type for this role. They just get it. They just get it. I'm not going to sit here and train somebody on how to log into Batch Dialer and troubleshoot the tool. I just need somebody who has a brain like that. Just like there's natural acquisitions managers, there's natural people that can problem solve without me telling them what to do. They're the only person I'll have in my company where I give them the end goal and they have to work backward to figure it out themselves. And it's a particular type of personality type that you need for that role. It makes your life a lot easier finding the right person. Everybody else have SOPs and training materials on how they could do their job. Although I do look for people that have natural aptitude at these jobs. But the operations manager person, like you can't hire an ENTJ or really probably an extroverted person for that role. It's just not going to work. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, this person is, my executive assistant's really good. Let me have them do operations work. Well, operations managers, they need to go in, they need to be able to know how to diagnose an issue and do deep work day in, day out and not get bored. The same repetitive task every day. Usually that's not like the executive assistant. The executive assistant is a little bit more dynamic in regards to interacting with people and they have a broader scope on their work. The operations manager is super deep and narrow with what we have them do. Okay. So this is more of an internally facing role. So a lot of you guys, unless you're actually clients of mine, you won't really hear from my operations manager. Okay. Then we have the cold caller supervisor. Okay. The cold caller supervisor, this is going to be the person who is supervising the cold caller. So I have somebody who oversees all the cold callers. And if needed, the ops manager could slide into this role. But once I got to like 5 cold callers, I realized I needed a supervisor just to help them out. And why is this important? Guys, this hierarchy is important so your team members feel supported. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into companies and people wonder why their employees quit. Well, their employees quit and they think they have the wrong fit. Not necessarily. Sometimes that's the case, but oftentimes what happens is because the company doesn't have a structured onboarding process and the company does not have a ongoing support and training program. Imagine if you went into a company and they just told you just to get to work. Hey, CC, just get to work. And say I knew the job. Say I was an expert at the job. My last job I worked was in 2016. That's January 2016. So it was really 2015. And I was an intelligence analyst for Fort Bragg. All right, for special forces. And it was basically the same job I did whenever I was in the military and deployed to Afghanistan. So I knew how to do the job, but I needed to know who to go to about my payroll, who to go to about my benefits, right? If I got stuck doing the actual work, who do I go to in that regard? Because there were some things that they did differently and they required, they required certain it to be done a certain way. And if I just did things the way I did it in my unit in the Army without asking them or without them showing me, then, my work I wouldn't last very long because my work would have been scrutinized. Right. So even if your employees are A+ employees, they still need to have hierarchy and structure. So I look at my business like a Fortune 500 company. That's how I want to structure it. Right. Not a cool Silicon Valley startup or anything like that. No, corporate structure, corporate hierarchy. It's important for me to have it like this. And I think for you all too, because the whole goal is for your employees and your business to work for you. If you're working hard to keep the lights on, guys, and have a lot of stress at the end of the night, then, at the least that you can have is if you're paying these people, have them take some work off your plate. Now, when you first set these processes up and hire these people, there is going to be more work that you're going to be doing, but it's all to thank yourself later, right? Your future self will thank yourself now for, maybe working 10 more hours a week to make sure all these people are good to go. They're spun up on the job. They know their job. You have this hierarchy set. So, in a year from now, hey, I can cut back my hours by 10 or plus hours or have room to travel and not worry about if I travel, am I going to have my phone right next to me? Okay. Because I have to put out fires. A lot of you guys have hierarchies where you have employees that are going straight to you, right? So no blue in the middle. And you have like 15 employees, maybe not that much, maybe like 5 or 6. It can seem like it's 15 if you have 5 employees going straight to you. Only thing you're doing, I may be dating myself here and aging myself, but you're just playing whack-a-mole, right? So we had a place called Frankie's Fun Park, which had go-karts and arcade games when I was younger. Love the place. And they had whack-a-mole, right? It was a game where these little things would pop up and you'd have this baton type rubber baton and you whack them. And so as soon as you would whack one mole, guess what? One would come out in another area. And so the goal was to see how many you could whack in like a minute or two. So same thing here. A lot of you guys are just putting out fires, that's interchangeable for whack-a-mole. You guys are playing whack-a-mole in your business. And that's the last I'll say whack-a-mole. All right. I said it one more time. So you guys are essentially putting out fires in your business because you are allowing every employee to come to you. My friends, just because you're great at the business of real estate, right? Closing deals up doesn't mean you're great at being a business owner. And this isn't me taking shots or anything. This is literally me talking to my younger self. Like nobody taught me this. I had some military experience, right? I had a lot of experience when I was younger, in the military, supervising people. I always have thought I've done a good job with supervising people, but up until it really required me because of the time that was needed to dedicate to, the owner tasks in the business, I couldn't cold call. I couldn't text, I couldn't monitor my direct mail campaign. So I was forced to outsource. And so in the military, at my level, I retired a sergeant, or I got out as a sergeant. I was responsible for people, but I wasn't responsible for like 100 people, like a company commander would, a battalion commander would be. Wasn't like that. But so I had to learn a lot of these business skills on the fly. And guys, there's not okay. So masterminds, if you guys are part of masterminds, my understanding, there's not masterminds that teach you like how to like run the business. They'll teach you what you need to run it, and then maybe how to run it yourself, right? So let me correct myself. Yes, they teach you how to run the business, but how to hire other people and train them on this, guys. These are things that are not being taught, and a lot of you guys learn over time by getting burned. Unfortunately, I learned by getting burned, and so I went through all of this so you guys don't have to. So please trust me when I'm saying these things. Unfortunately, a lot of investors, guys, I'm hard-headed. You have to be a little bit of a hard-headed person to be in this industry. Why else will you be in it? But, unfortunately, a lot of investors wait until they make mistakes and they're out of money before they course correct. Right. So I'm not going to tell you the most popular things. A lot of what I'm saying is not things you'll hear online. It's not exciting. Like, I wouldn't say that I find this exciting, but I know this isn't like super exciting. It's not as cool as seeing me do live cold calls, but this is the stuff that actually gets us paid and consistently. Prevents us from having this up and down topsy-turvy effect in our business where we're up, we got 5 deals between July and August of this year. And then September, you close one deal, and then October, November, December, nothing. Right? This is going to prevent you from doing that. Okay, guys, drop your questions as you have them. Drop your comments, right? I appreciate these comments from Jermaine. He's on every live, right? He said, I agree with that. I was definitely struggling with this in my business. Exactly, guys. If you are resonating with this, drop the comments. I just don't do this for myself. I get pumped off of communicating with you, Ella. So, okay. So we got a few people in here. So drop some comments, guys, if you're resonating with this, or if you have any questions, or if you disagree with what I'm saying. I'm not saying I know everything. So if you disagree with what I say, let me know, and we can have a conversation about it. Okay. All right. So executive assistant, outward facing support. We're going to go over the task here, right here in a little bit. So this is just a 30,000 foot view. Executive assistant, admin and email support, ops manager, internal facing. Okay. This is the role that most of you guys will need. Underneath them, a lot of you guys may say, well, shouldn't the acquisitions manager be up at the top? No, sir. No, sir. Now, dispo manager, shouldn't that person be at the top? No, sir. No, ma'am. Guys, you may find this backward. And I'll tell this to you guys. I don't think I've mentioned this publicly. My clients hear about this and they know how I roll. But my ops managers is a Filipino. I have Americans answering to a Filipino. Oh, what? Can we set aside the ego to do that? Again, it's the needs of Cece's business, not what the acquisitions manager wants. So I'm very mindful of the acquisitions managers I bring in. So I rarely would bring in somebody in like their 30s or 40s. As an American, it's usually a college student, somebody who's probably worked in this capacity before. If not, they worked sales in another capacity, and I'll bring them in because they have the right personality fit to do the job. But they answer to the Filipino virtual assistant, the operations manager, because guess what? They're reporting their KPIs to them. Guys, I have a structure here. I just don't let anybody do anything in my company. All right, guys, that's why I can have this type of company and then close up 7 to 10 deals a month, right? And not stress about that. I probably contract 15 contracts a month, and then we end up closing about 7 to 10, right? That's about where I'm at right now. I could close 20 deals a month, guys. I've done that, right? And I was talking to somebody right before this, Andrew Mitchell, great guy. And I was telling him, I said, hey, I've closed up 20 deals a month. Me being 10 years in, I understand what fits my personality, right? So by no means am I saying that this structure, I'm not capable of it, or you're only limited to 7 to 10 deals a month. Really, at this point, if you have this structure, you get to darn near 30 deals a month. I would just probably hire another ops manager and then just boost your cold callers and lead managers just to handle the lead flow. Outside of that, this structure, you can talk to anybody who's doing high volume. They'll say, yeah, this is what my company looks like. Probably in a different order and maybe different titles, but roughly they have these roles. Okay. So the head acquisition manager, again, reports to the ops managers, because the acquisitions manager, if you sort of let them go on their own devices, and I give them a bit of a loose leaf. I'm not on top of them the same way I'm on top of my lead managers. But if you just tell them, hey, just make some calls, and you don't give them a number like 50 dials a day to do 50, I don't care if it's follow up, new leads are coming, you have to get 50 to 70 dials in a day. Okay. That's just like standard, and I have enough leads for them to do that. I don't care if the leads are cold. You better get your 50 dials. So that could be touch points. It could be 10 calls. I wouldn't suggest that, but it could be about 5 calls with 10 sellers, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, trying to get in touch with them, because a lot of what the acquisitions managers is doing, they're trying to chase down contracts, right? Sometimes they may dip to below that if they have an hour call with somebody, right? That's all about bringing in the right person who gets sales and then giving them the training on how we do it, and then just letting them, do their thing. So I have a larger box for them, but they still have a box, right? They still have an ops manager they report to. Top of that too, guys, acquisition managers, they love pen and pad. They love not using the CRM. So the operations manager is like staying on top of them. So I'm not asking the same questions over and over again. Or it's 8:00 p.m., 8:30 p.m. here, 8 o'clock, 8:30 p.m. And I'm waiting. And let's just say I'm doing an audit on Saturday night on my leads, which I did right before this. Just on the leads I had, let's just say the note, they didn't update their notes. And I'm over here, I can't get in touch with them. I'm not going to hit them up on the weekend unless they told me they were going to work. So I have to wait till Monday basically to do that part of the business, to look and see, where are we at with this homeowner? Because it looked like we should have a contract, but he didn't update the note saying he sent off a contract. I don't see the contract in DocuSign. I don't know if he mailed it or what. So, having that operations manager keeps them accountable, right? Again, it's just accountability, guys. It's not anything dealing with this person's better than that person. We all have our roles here, but I would say if you look at this proportionally, right, the ops manager is basically the star in the middle. They're the star, guys. They're the backbone of my company. Okay. I'm the face of it. My executive assistant is my sidekick, but my ops manager is a backbone. Super, super important role. Super important role. Okay. Finding that right person who you could guys, imagine how it feels if you have somebody, you have a dialer issue. You're trying to go lock up a contract, dispo 2 deals, and then your cold callers are hitting you up because they ran out of data, or there's an issue with the dialer, right? One of the dialers, it says it's dialing triple line dialing, but they're not getting the same dials as somebody else. Guys, it's not your job to go from $1,000 to the $10,000 hour task roughly to a $5 to $12 hour task. That doesn't make sense. So a lot of you guys need to value your time more and actually put a dollar number on your time. Just in general, my time's worth $250 an hour. It was 500, but I lowered it to $250 for you guys that want to do consulting calls. Just $250 an hour. That's what I'm comfortable with. Okay. But when I'm in my business, right, my real estate business, I'm working on $1,000 to $10,000 hour tasks. Okay. So if I have to go in and do a cold calling task, like I'm going to be looking at my operations manager, like, you're fired, get out of my company. Okay. Right. Get out of my company. You don't belong here. That's how you guys need to look at this thing. Okay. My guy Andrew. Yep. Just mentioned him. CC. Is a real deal. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, brother. Okay, great question. Do you have your VAs doing multiple things or only just calling or texting? Okay, let's go into this now. Let's go ahead and talk about the task. And I want to do this live just so you guys, with the questions you have, I can cater this to you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and then I'm going to go ahead and start going to some of these tasks. So keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming. They're great questions here. So let's go ahead and get to this. And let me know if the I need to zoom in anymore here, guys, if you can't see. Okay. But I think this font's fine. All right. So let's go ahead and let's talk about, do you have your VAs doing multiple things or just calling or texting? Okay. So Jermaine, great question. Each person has their own set of tasks that they're doing, and there's no overlap. None. So my operations manager, not my operations manager. My operations manager is doing all the admin sort of task and roles. So what are those? Okay. So I'll have my ops manager send off text. Okay. Monitor text replies and forward to IF3, our CRM. After they, those are two things they do. And some of you guys may say, well, why do you have your operations manager doing text blast? Guys, it takes like 5 minutes to send off the text blast and RI reply the way we have them set up. We don't do drips. We literally just upload 5,000 texts at 9 a.m., send off. And then it's the so the ops manager will monitor the text replies, and forward them to IF3, right? So they'll supervise correction. They'll supervise the lead manager. Excuse me. Let me open this up a little bit more. Okay, they'll supervise a lead manager who is then responding to text and or picking up the phone and calling the seller. Ops manager makes sure no leads are missed. Okay, so essentially auditing the CRM, auditing the reply account, and lead manager. Okay, so I know that was a mouthful. So the operations manager supervises the lead manager. So the lead manager is ultimately responsible for responding back to the homeowners and RI reply. But guys, I'm not going to leave it to a $7 lead manager to view all the leads that come through. Guys, it's very important to note that in my company, I have checks and balances everywhere. So nothing's missed. So while the lead manager is the one who may get the leads from the CRM, I'm just not going to assume they did their job. This person's all the way at the bottom. It will be very idealistic for me to think, oh man, well, I hired somebody for that role. They should just be able to, do it perfectly. Guys, I know people miss things. And unless I want to pay $20 an hour for this role, which I'm not, for somebody to just do the role perfect, I'm fine with the job getting done 70%. And then the other 30% comes from ops manager. Because we have so much volume, we're going to need an auditor. I need an auditor, right? And also, too, the operations manager makes sure everything, this is what we said in the military, was dress right, dress. Some of my military folks know what that means, but dress right, dress basically means everything's in order, okay? I don't like things piling up. What do I mean? I don't like, if I didn't have anybody auditing the leads, imagine if we generated 200-300 leads in 1 month, and then during lead manager didn't update the notes properly, or he didn't tag them right, or they weren't formatted right when he put them over to inside of InvestorFuse, and then we have a mess. And guess who has to go and clean all that up? the ops manager, because I'm not going to have the lead manager do it, because I'm not going to pay them $7 an hour to clean something up that they already messed up. So it's going to fall back on my ops manager. So we might as well do it right the first time. Okay, guys, I'm telling you, all these processes, I have over 100-page SOP on my whole business. Okay. All right. So what I'm telling you guys, these are actually processes, PowerPoint slides, everything. Okay. Now that's for my ops manager. I'm not just going to give the lead manager a 100-page SOP. When they come in, they get training from the acquisition manager and the ops manager. Okay. But these are all processes that we have fleshed out and realize is the best route to go, because I'm strategically getting ahead of things. Okay. A lot of you guys may say, well, I don't know why you do that, CCR. That seems like it's a lot of work. I'm doing things to get ahead of things so it doesn't create a problem for us in the future. Okay. And to make sure I'm not missing anything. I would just hate, excuse my language here, I don't like that word, but I would absolutely hate if we missed a lead and that we could have audited, because I'm getting 20 to 30 leads a day. We could have caught one of those leads that wanted to sell for cash and the lead manager missed it because they, listen, it may not be malicious. They may just be overwhelmed, right? And the lead manager missed it. And then 3 months from now, I'm over here doing an audit, or, let's just say we cold called the person or texted, did another text blast on the same list. And then we see that they responded back that they wanted $50,000 for the house. The ARV is $300K. And guess what? They respond back when we hit them up 3 months later, sold. That's why we have this in place. Checks and balances, everybody. We run this like a Fortune 500 company. This is what is needed to get to $7 figures annually. This is what's needed. This is advanced level real estate investing. We're not even in the real estate investing game right now. This could apply to any company. Excuse me. As we scale our company, the more and more I feel like I'm not even in real estate. And it should feel like that, guys. It should feel like that. And you should really love being a business owner first and foremost, right? Real estate's just the commodity exchange. If you guys just want to do real estate and that's it, you're going to be stuck at 2 to 3 deals a month forever. These are higher level concepts. If you want to scale, guys, you cannot do everything yourself. You literally cannot. I'm not saying your organizational chart has to look like this, but this is what you should be aspiring to, right? This is what it looks like. Okay. This is what it looks like. Yes. Great seeing you, Maria. I see you interact with my content all the time, so I appreciate you being here. Okay, so I want to continue on this here. So I'll keep Jermaine's question up here. Okay. So next, what other tasks do we have the operations manager do? Let's zoom in here. Big one, big one, probably the most important one. KPI monitoring. Okay, so monitoring all the KPIs, getting all the KPIs from all of the components. Everybody has KPIs. Guys, I even have KPIs I'm responsible for, right? I'm responsible for, there's usually like 10% of the leads that I need to underwrite. Me personally, I need eyes on. And my operations manager is on top of me if I do not do that, right? If I don't get to the leads, she's like, hey, Cece, the acquisition team, they're waiting for your answer. They're waiting for the answer. I'm like, oh, I need to look at that deal, right? And it's usually a deal that has a complicated situation, right? There's something going on with the title. It's a probate issue. You have multiple people on the deed, something that's unconventional I need to look at. And so my ops manager stays on top of me. I tell them to stay on top of me. Just because I'm at the top of the company, God, doesn't mean I'm too good to be checked. Again, the hierarchy here isn't to say this person is better than that person, this person's over this person. No, it's literally so all bases are covered, right? All bases are covered, right? And then this is exactly what Jermaine was asking here, right? So all bases are covered here. And so KPI monitoring. Another thing that we have the ops manager do is this operations manager, guys, is going to be responsible for, okay, so I said supervise lead manager, send off text blast, KPI monitoring. Okay, onboarding new team members and continuous training. Okay, so and overseeing training. Guys, I have to take a note out of my own playbook here because we have a lot of clients we serve. So I have my real estate investment company, and then I'm basically doing the same thing for clients, right? I'm copy and pasting everything in my client's business. So I usually have 5 or 6 clients I'm working with where I'm doing complete team build outs. And it's like running 5 different investment companies. But once my people work with me, they're on a completely different trajectory for life. It's life changing. I'm not downplaying that. With that being said, it's difficult enough if I were to try to, do the lead manager training, acquisitions training, and all that stuff myself. So usually what happens is I have my powwow at 9 o'clock in the morning with my leadership team. And then if it looks like the acquisitions managers, not just mine, because they're in my weekly trainings too, but if it looks like my clients' acquisitions managers and then my acquisitions managers are all dealing with problems that my operations manager can see through because they understand my business intimately, with the assistance of my head acquisitions manager, both of them will tackle my weekly acquisitions call. And then I'll make sure my clients actually don't feel like I'm just pawning them off on a VA. I've had virtual assistants lead coaching calls with American people, but it's because they have trust that the Filipinos virtual assistants are going to be able to do their job. Because I understand how it may look sometimes whenever you're being pawned off on somebody foreign, and my Filipinos brothers and sisters watching, I don't like mentioning this, but it's just the reality of the situation. I'd be foolish not to say that. Some people are great. A lot of people are great, but some people are just like, oh, well, if you're pawning me off on a virtual assistant, then it's losing the integrity and quality of the program. That's not it. So I would literally have with my acquisitions team, I would have my acquisitions manager and my ops manager run some of my training calls. Right? I wouldn't say rarely. I don't need to be on the cold calling calls. I like being on the cold calling calls. So I have about 40 cold callers, 10 myself, and then 30 right now with my clients. Right? So I don't mind being on the cold calling calls. Right? But those majority can basically be ran with my ops manager. Okay, and then the cold calling supervisor. And then the acquisitions calls, it's tricky. Just depending on the scenarios and issues that my clients or my acquisitions managers may be facing, I can usually bow out on that call 50% of the time. If I didn't, guys, I wouldn't be able to put this content out to you guys. And I literally have taken a note out of my own playbook, because if you guys see me online post, I may post for like 2 weeks straight, and then I'll disappear for 3 months. It's not because I don't like social media or don't like you guys. I love you guys, but it's literally because I'm getting bogged down in operations. And I told myself this year I need to have better work-life balance, and that also meant me restructuring my organization chart and just having a little bit stronger boundaries with my team members, guys. With my team members, I have stronger boundaries with them. If they hit me up on the weekend and have personal problems, I'm sorry, just going to have to wait till Monday. And I used to not be like that. And also just not only having those boundaries, but also having it where if there is an urgent issue, right, the ops manager can come in on the weekend and help, with that problem before it becomes a problem on Monday, especially if it's urgent. Okay. Ooh, we are rolling, guys. We are rolling. We are making some progress. AT groups, CC, you mentioned you get 20, 30 leads a day. Is that total? And is it closer to 20 or 30? It just depends. Honestly, it's definitely 20 at a minimum. It may be 30 based off of if I see that one market isn't performing well, like my Texas markets, I may say, hey guys, let's push it a little bit more here. And then for the next couple of days to compensate for lower quality leads, I may say, hey, we want to double the text. Because the leads that come in, if they're all like not so great, I'll push it up. I'll push it up to 30 or even 40. But I am consciously keeping it at 20 or 30. I can go higher, but guys, I like where my real estate investment company is. I like where it is. I'm not here stressing over the deal. If I'm working on the business, it's really because I want to. After hours, like on the weekend, not necessarily because I need to. Okay. Because, not because I need to. Like I could be generating 100 leads a day, which I have before, but by no means am I doing that. Man, AT Groups. Man, that name sounds so familiar. I feel like I just spoke to you. So forgive me. I would address you by your name. Once you give me your name, I'll know who you are. But yeah, more closer to 30 a day, I would say, is where we're at. It just really depends. It's a toss up. It's not like I cannot generate 30 leads a day or 40 or more. Because literally with texting with REI reply, guys, it's just a matter of pulling some data and then blasting it. But again, I do not want to overwhelm my staff. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Dave Otto. Yep, Dave. Yeah, we have a consulting call scheduled for next week. Yes. Okay, yes. Okay. Okay, so going back to the ops manager task. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, that's right. When it comes to the leads that are generated, I want to make sure that we're not missing anything. Okay, because if I'm getting 30 leads a day, guys, there's going to be money in there. And really, we have the privilege now where most of our leads are on follow-up, and we're looking for that low-hanging fruit every week, right? So some of you guys may say, well, 30 leads a day, that should be like several contracts a week, about 2 solid ones. Yeah, we could contract some other stuff and get 5 contracts a week, but I'm at the point where I want to contract the home runs. I'm totally fine with keeping other stuff on follow-up, right? If you come across too thirsty and hungry for the deal, then, you may be in a position where it pushes the seller away. And oftentimes whenever we have a seller and they may be at like 20 to 30% underneath the price the retail or ARV, right? But we need to get them down another 20%. Usually I'm just like telling my acquisitions team, and they realize this. Hey guys, just give them our credibility packet, give them the information on me, right? Put them on a drip campaign in the CRM, and then that often makes the seller want to chase us more, because we'll say, well, you know what, Mr. Seller, hey, I don't want to insult you with our offer. Hey, let's just stay in touch, and if anything changes in 3 months, in a month or two, let's have that conversation. I think we're just a little bit off on the price right now, and then they'll say, well, where are we at? Give me your best shot. Mr. Seller, it's fine. Hey, well, let me go talk to my team and I'll let you know. And then it'll still be the same answer. So they'll come talk to me, and we'll have our acquisitions call right after our morning call at 9:30 is when we have that call. And with my acquisition team, I'll say, okay, yeah, just tell them, hey, it's probably not a good fit for us now. We don't want to insult them. Tell them the same thing. Hey, we'll go ahead and we'll follow up with you in a month. And I'm telling you, it messes with their mind, guys. It messes with their mind. But another reason why I'm doing that too, guys, is I only want to work with people that really, really, really are rocking with us. I've had a lot of deals fall through the pipeline in 2024, and it wasn't just me. It seemed like it was ubiquitous across the industry. I know several of my clients were dealing with the same thing, and they were experienced. And more and more of them were having to file demand letters. More and more of them were having sellers that would just go ghost with no indication before closing. You call them the day of closing, the day before closing, nowhere to be found. And they're over here talking to somebody else. So I want there to be some sort of courting there. Now, yes, we do contract people when they come through and there's hardly any relationship, but those people usually have heard the We Buy Houses message before, and they can interchange our company with another company, and it's almost like we piggybacked off of somebody else's follow-up at that point. Okay. So we still give them a credibility package. I still hop on the phone with them if needed, to get it closed up. But for the most part, my acquisition team members, they know what a motivated seller sounds like, and they know what type of homeowner we work with. We don't just work with everybody. Okay. Our reputation here, my company is Garland House Buyers. By the way, that's my wholesaling company, investment company, and land acquisitions now company name. So at Garland House Buyers, we're really focused on this on working with sellers that really rock with us. Okay, make them jump through hoops. Now, am I not gonna say anything to deliberately dissuade the seller from working with us, like put a bad taste in their mouth? But the seller has to. We have to know they want to sell. I just don't contract stuff just to contract it. So, when we get, 7 deals, 10 deals closed a month, most of those are properties we've we contracted. We have about a 66% close rate, 66, 67. That's what it's been averaging since 2019 for us. Okay. All right. Great questions, team. Great questions. Let's get back up to the task. So we'll leave it there for the ops manager task. Let's do the cold caller task now. Okay, so cold caller task, a lot of you guys may think, oh, it's just a cold call. Well, yes. Yes, it is just a cold call, but there's a little bit more. Okay, this is what it is. Cold caller task. Okay, so a cold caller is going to be responsible for triple line, dialing, sellers, like 80%. I would say 95% of their job. Triple line dialing sellers. Okay, guys, you need this person sitting in this seat for 8 hours just so they have the chance to get 1 to 2 properties, 1 to 2 leads in. Yes, I know you guys say, well, my cold caller is getting 3 to 5 leads, a day. Okay, whatever. Right, that's not average. I've done this long enough to know that's not the average, right? And if you're looking for that all-star, you're going to be looking forever. So on average, with what we're paying them, what it makes sense to pay them. So my cost per deal can stay around $2 to $3 grand. Pay these suckers $5 to $6 an hour, and they're triple line dialing. That's their job. There's nothing we really can do in training to get them to do more than that, right? Not because they lack the skills or abilities, or my training program isn't great. My training program is great. It's more along the lines of it literally is a time in the seat. This comes down. Generating 1 to 3 leads a day comes down to time in the seat. So if your cold callers aren't performing, you should check and see how long they're in the seat. And a lot of these cold callers, they'll say whatever they need to get a job, but they're not the right personality type. Guys, I love the ENFJ for this role. ENFJ, guys, I'm always going to talk about this. ENFJ, ESFJ. You can also do an ENTP if you can find one. ESFP, right? Notice all extroverts for this role. I don't have any introverts. So, if you guys aren't buying into the whole framework that I'm doing, at least have them take the 16 personalities test just to see if they're an introvert or extrovert. If you don't know what any of these other letters mean, the first one is either E or I. So all these have their opposite. So INFJ, no. ISFJ, definitely not. ESFJ for sure. ENTP, INTP, I'm an INTP. Hell no, don't ask me to cold call. Wrong answer. ENTP is good for that. ISFP, yeah, don't ask an ISFP to cold call. Again, guys, it's easy stuff here. It's easy stuff. This stuff isn't talked about though, but this is simple when you break it down and when you understand it, right? Extroverts for extroverted tasks. Introverts, right, for introverted tasks. Right. So the ops manager, the only person I'm hiring for that is an ISTJ. That's the only personality type I'd consider. Now, what you guys are going to get, you're going to get a lot of ENTJs. No, an ENTJ could be an executive assistant. Okay. But an ops manager, to get their hands dirty, they don't have the cognitive functions. They don't have the cognitive functions to be able to just figure it out. And they'll avoid the work, or they'll try to find somebody else who could do the job. ENTJs are supervisors. And that's most of the people. If you do go out and hire for this role, you're going to get a lot of ENTJs, and you need an ISTJ for that role. Point blank, period, hands down, no questions asked. But you can do like one other company I worked with right before this. I was trying to tell them, I was like, I was just a consultant. And they didn't listen to me. I'm like, just hire an ISTJ for the operations role. Like, don't make it difficult. But you want to have them take culture index and predictive index and all this stuff, and it's not that complicated. I think I know what I'm talking about. When it comes to this. Again, that's why if I sound a little bit irked, it's because I say these things and they may sound a little woo-woo out here, but guys, I don't care how woo-woo it is. If it works, it works. I'm a very analytical person. All right, triple line dialing, other jobs. So, I would say, guys, first 90 days, you definitely want to have them do this. Really what your cold caller should be doing, they need to know how to troubleshoot their dialer. They need to know how to upload their list and rotate the list. Rotate, I would say refresh and refresh their list. Okay? Boom. You see what I'm saying here, guys? So that's it. Now, okay, so bonus task you have them do is you can have them do once they know the job. So like dispositions, like you can have them do like buyer prospecting, right? So cold calling buyers, right? Duties, and it doesn't for job. Okay, guys. So let me break this down here. So bonus, they can also cold call buyers. This is a great sort of like cross training task you can have them do. So they can, excuse me, sorry about that. I'll try to keep it there. Okay, so they can cold call your buyers, and I really like that role for them. It's a great sort of complementary role for your cold callers. Okay. But everything should be centered around calling. Notice I didn't say, "Hey, can you upload this list?" Or excuse me, not upload this list. Can you pull this list? Can you skip trace this list? Okay, guys, you're gonna, if you have them do that, you're gonna start relying them on that for more. And then at that point, it's going to take away from their productivity to do cold calling. You're going to be like, why don't I have any leads? It's because you took them away to do those tasks. Now, if you want to slide them in that role, you're working with a lean team, you want to cross-train them, great. But, what I found is that when investors start cross-training cold callers on admin tasks, because usually this is what happens. If you don't hire for these personality types, you're going to have the cold caller. If they're an introvert, they're going to naturally start doing some stuff and saying they could do some other things that aren't centered around cold calling. So, and you're going to be like, oh, they're a great employee, this, that, and third. They suck as a cold caller. You're not hiring them to be a great employee. You hire them to be a cold caller, not an admin assistant. Yeah, cool. You could send off an email, but I didn't hire you for that. So I'm losing productivity because you're doing something that you're more comfortable with. Absolutely not. Guys, these are the parts of the company nobody tells you about. Okay? I'm preaching right now, guys. I'm preaching. These are the parts of the company nobody tells you about, right? These are the parts of the business nobody tells you about, rather. Excuse me. Okay. So triple on dollar sellers, troubleshooting the dollar, uploading their list. Let's keep it there. Let's put a pin on it. Okay. Let's talk about the EA task, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the owner task here. And then I'll get to lead managers as well. Okay. So guys, we're rolling here. We are rolling. So EA task. What do these look like? Okay. Executive assistant task. So you don't need this role, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but my EA, she does some transaction coordination. So she'll do transaction coordination. She'll do that in tandem with the ops manager. Just depends like what the task is, but she'll primarily be the one reviewing the HUDs, making sure everything looks good line by line, making sure like pushing it forward, getting ahead of things, right? So, one thing that I dislike title companies that they always do, because I'm over here trying to do a quick close, and they'll sit here and they'll wait up until 48 hours before closing to go get the tax payoff, the water payoff, the sewage payoff, and it's going to delay my closing by another week. So when you guys when you're set to close on Friday, that's why I don't like Friday closings. Guys, why is there a delay? The seller's ready, the buyer's ready, I'm ready. It's a delay because the freaking title company waited till the last minute to order that stuff. That's why in the last live stream, what I was saying about the power of attorney is it would behoove you to get a POA. Now, you don't need this to get the loan payout to get the sewer shut off information. Because I just told somebody I had a property under contract. Like I tell people at the county, hey, I have a property under contract. Hey, we want to get ahead of this thing. We want to get the payoff because we plan on closing on Friday. So on Monday, I'm telling my executive assistant to call the county to get all these payoffs, because yes, we are doing the title company job. Guys, we have the most to lose in this transaction. The wholesaling company, you have the most to lose. It's no joke. The seller, they've held on to the house for 20, 30 years. What's another week? The closing attorney, they're getting paid $200-300. They have closings every day. The buyer, he's going to be in a rush to spend $300,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Come on, guys. You know, he wants to deal, but you know, it's not like he's making money at the closing. So we have the most to gain, actually, most to lose and the most to gain. So it doesn't seem right, but you know, we could say shoulda, woulda, coulda all day. But at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure my money's not held up. This is how you get to 7-day closings, guys. You have to do the job of you have to do other people's jobs sometimes. And what we do in our company is we're calling as soon as we have that buyer locked into that assignment fee, we're calling the county to get the payoff to send it over to the title company, because I know they're going to wait 48 hours before closing to do that crap. Wrong answer. Been played the fool too many times. We're not doing that. Not doing that over here, guys. So, you know, so they'll do transaction coordination. They will also, so she books my flights for me. Yeah, I'm lazy. She pays my personal and business bills. My ops manager has access to my my bank accounts too, but you know, she's just like a backup for my EA. Or there may be some business related stuff that the ops manager, like she may need to pay for DocuSign. My EA doesn't need to really do that. So some of the tasks are overlapping, but some of the tasks could be interchangeable, but they're never overlapping, right? So it won't be a situation where my ops manager booked a flight for me and then my EA is like, oh, I got to book a flight. Guys, I'm constantly in communication with my team, guys. And you know, one thing I'll put here just in this owner task quick light is communicate. Guys, I communicate. Guys, my main task is communicate and to disambiguate, right? So let's go to Google to see what this means to make sure I'm using it in the correct phrase. Okay, so yeah, remove uncertainty of meaning, for, you know, an ambiguous sentence. So removing uncertainty. So removing any uncertainty in the business. I would say a better word here, guys, is not just communicate, disambiguate, and eliminate redundancies, right? So I'm not trying to have that requires me to communicate, so I don't have multiple people doing the same task, and we look up in a month and we had the lead managers calling the same darn lead. That's why we have daily calls. Again, when I work with my clients, that's why I only take like 4 to 5 people on a quarter, if that, because I'm having, you know, my team's leading these daily calls, okay, to show the business owner how to run the business. Because I can hire these people, but if they don't know how to run the business, basically, in several months, once I step away, you know, they're going to be looking at me like these VAs suck when I didn't put them in a position. I didn't put the VAs nor the client in a position to win. Okay, so pays my personal and business bills. Okay, communicates with clients and also oversees dispositions task. So she'll oversee like the disposition admin task. Again, I can have my operations manager do this, but I really try not to put too much on her plate, and I want her mind to be really acquisitions focused. So my EA helps actually a lot with the dispo transaction coordination, right? If that makes sense, because it's not really technical in nature. So she'll, you know, post in Facebook groups, find a realtor to list the house on the MLS, right? So those are the types of things she'll do. It's more outward facing. Again, guys, this is an extrovert, okay? So, you know, I think my person is an ENTJ, right? You also do an I really like ENTJ for that role. I'm trying to think. Depending on your personality type, and an INTJ could work, just depending on when they were born. But I really like the ENTJ for that role, because they're going to take charge again, you know. And again, most of these, you know, the ops manager and executive assistant, they're pretty much at the same level, but just organization wide, wise, my EA, she's a little bit closer to me because she's just handling more of my personal stuff. And I like it that way because she's doing the really important dispositions task, right? So she, I depend on her to make sure that my HUDs are right and not off by several grand like my business partner did one time. First time I went and tried to have a vacation, which I didn't back in 2016. My man, I gave him the reins. I told him, hey, make sure you check. We had a closing like the day I had my flight to go to Spain in 2017. It's like in February or March. And we had a closing, and sure enough, he didn't check the HUD, and we were out $1 grand. Luckily it wasn't more than that, but we couldn't do anything after that because he didn't review the HUD. So again, guys, I have really great technical specialists that assist me with this. What's going on, Ty? Hope you're doing well, my friend. Okay, guys. Any question you have, feel free to drop them. I hope you guys are getting some knowledge out of this. Okay, so let's talk about your owner task. Owner task, owner task, owner task. Okay, so again, I said to communicate, disambiguate, and eliminate redundancies. So guys, final underwriting. I have eyes on about every contract. That doesn't mean I'm like manually underwriting or review them, but every contract that gets sent out, I've given the green light. And so before anything gets sent out, we usually have a call, right? Or we're on Slack, right? So it's usually our morning call, or if it's in the day after our call and our we have a contract that's set to get sent out, excuse me. We'll have a conversation in Slack, but usually I'll know every deal that's getting sent out. And, it's a good thing because sometimes like this summer, there were contracts that got sent out, and, even myself, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't review that. Let me hope they didn't contract anything poorly, but because that 100-page SOP I have, and the training and the team I have, it was, my team knows what I like. My team knows what I like. And they contracted, it was 2 properties last week at a great price. So it's final underwriting. And I would say like reviewing like 10% of the leads that come through, right? So those 10% of the leads, the ones that have really, one second, I'm about to sneeze. As soon as I say it, of course it goes. Okay. All right. I think I'm good. It's been bubbling up and down for the whole call. So if you guys see me rubbing my nose, that's why. I got a little sniffle here. Okay, so final underwriting, reviewing 10% of the leads that come through. Great. Okay. Also, owner task. Guys, there's a level at each one of these areas that I usually assist with, right? So for dispo, establishing relationships with serious buyers, so after they purchase. Because guys, I have a dispositions manager that actually handles, a dispositions manager that handles, right, the dispo, okay, right, moving the property. So, but if he's like, hey man, this guy, we close with him, he loved working with us, he wants to know if we have anything else, then I may have a call with him and just, see what he or she wants. Okay. So, that's on a case-by-case basis. Oh, guys, training. All right. Training. I would say that's what I do on a daily basis, guys. It's listening to their calls. It's training. It's making sure that SOPs are enforced. Okay. So training. This is how you're going to get your team up to a great level. How are you going to hand off your task to your team members if you don't train them on what they're supposed to do? Okay. So training, guys. I do not slack off when it comes to that. So what does this look like? Usually I know this phrase is overused, but they're teaching moments. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. Nose is killing me. Usually there's teaching moments, guys. So lead comes through. All right. Lead comes through. Seller and it's a very unique situation. Seller lives in Alaska and their ex-wife lives in Hawaii. Um, they're going through a divorce. Ex-wife is on the deed. Oh, and guess what? Um, they just refinanced on the house. Something like that. Or let's just not say they refinance on the house. That's not a good example. Let's just say one of them they're in the hospital. Very unique scenario that's unconventional. And then let's just say a tenant squatting in the house. Something like that. Those unique scenarios, that's when, they'll bring that to my attention. They'll ask, hey, Cece, how do I overcome this? That's where I'll go over and I'll say, hey, this is how you deal with this situation. So we're not talking about like 90% of leads, because really the onboarding and team training, that happens in the first week with the operations manager. So the training I'm talking about here is it's like dealing with that 10 to 20% that comes up while you're doing your job. Okay. Super important stuff here, guys. Super important stuff. Right. So training. Yeah, guys. So I would say that, I could go into detail with that, but notice how there's levels for there's clear separation for each person, right? You don't see me saying with the ops manager, okay, they could cold call. They don't have the personality type for it. I've noticed a lot of people that are great at operations, they're not good at the extroverted cold calling task. If you don't know what their role is supposed to be, how do you know if you're going to hire the right person? And then how do you judge their work? How do you know if they're a good employee or not? It's like very important that you know what their tasks are, and then you go out and find the person that knows how to do the task, and then you just have them do that task. Now, I'm not saying the ops manager can't go and do EA tasks, but these are more of like a lateral, excuse me, versus the ops manager doing cold calling tasks, right? That's, this is a no-go, right? That's like, no. But they could slide through and do EA tasks, and I'll train both of them on their roles, so there's some redundancy. So if the ops manager has to take off or wants to take off for their vacation, their annual vacation, everything's not centered around them. But I like having things where they're very lean. I just have one person responsible for these tasks, because it's really easy to judge an individual's performance and know what went wrong and who's to blame for it. Like who's to blame when something goes wrong, because I don't believe in group punishment and calling people out in a group. That doesn't do anything for team morale. So if I know there's an issue with one cold caller, why am I going to have all the 10 cold callers, on the call, and then I'm chewing them all out? That's what I used to do. That's young CC. That was like 25, 26, 27-year-old CC. At one point I did that. But then I, got older, learned, got a few gray hairs, and realized, okay, if I'm tracking their KPIs, and we can easily see who's underperforming, right? And if you ever get to a situation where you're like blowing up on your employees, it's probably a cash flow issue. I know that was my issue. And you never want to take that on your team. Okay. So yeah. So, okay, great. Great question. So Tyron was asking, what personal types have you found are the best owners, and what have been the worst? Oh my gosh. Great question. Okay. So owner personality types. So definitely ENTP. Some of the best acquisitions people I've worked with, not just acquisitions, but business owners, they're ENTPs. And I don't know if I have my book here, but it's a book that goes over all the careers that are best for each personality type. And literally in the book, they classify ENTP as life's entrepreneurs. And they are ENTPs. So ENTPs are probably going to be your best fit for a real estate entrepreneur. Okay, so they're just natural. And guys, understanding these things, it lets you know, okay, well, if I'm struggling in something, I may need to go get some help, right? Or also not to judge yourself compared to somebody else. We all have strengths and weaknesses and blind spots and shadows. I acknowledge them. A lot of people don't, unfortunately. And I think that's what leads to a lot of issues is like not acknowledging your weaknesses and shadows and the dark parts of yourself. But that's another conversation. But don't try. If you're judging yourself based off of me or somebody else, work with what you got. Introverts make good people as well. But for real estate entrepreneurs, but I'm thinking of 3 people. Dedrick Polite, he was on the show 50/50 Flip. They have the show right now. Acquisition specialist, one of the sharpest people I work with. ENTP, one of the best acquisitions managers I've known. Derek Blades, right? He was a coaching student of mine. He owns Wichita Real Estate, the Facebook group, but he also has a turnkey rental property. He has probably over 100 properties underneath his maybe more, honestly, because that was in 2022. So he probably has several hundred right now underneath his company's umbrella, right? So just a natural real estate entrepreneur, natural acquisitions manager, supernatural. The other ENTP that I know of, so Derek, Dedrick, and all D's actually. Guys, there's one more, and it just slipped my mind. I'll remember them in a second. But ENTP is great. I would say the next one, guys, ENFJs are really good. Ty, I know you're an ENFJ. I would put ENTJ at a close second. ENFJ at a close second. ENTJ, close third. All right. Right. So ones that okay, so the ones that will have a little bit more that that they're good, but they may struggle with acquisitions. INTJ, right? INTJs are great, but they'll most likely need to hire people to do the acquisitions because they're introverts, guys, but they're great at running the business, right? They'll probably do a better job at me than running this organization. So they work great with systems already in place and then following that structure. So I would say INTJ. So INTJ, let me look at the 16 personalities here. INTJ, ENTJ, ENTP. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. ESTP. Yeah, okay. So yeah, ESTP. Not INTP. ESTP. ISTP and ISTJ. Oh, I'm sorry, I already did INTJ. INTJ, ESTP, ISTP, and ISTJ, right? So, they're these are naturals. So, natural born real estate owner personality types. Okay. Ones that can do it but might need a little bit more help in acquisitions: INTJ, ESTJ, ESTP, ISTP, and ISTJ, right? The can do it but will struggle. Okay. So these are ones that can do it but will struggle to get started, just behind the 8 ball. So, we're getting towards the bottom here. And I'll be honest, INTP, so this is my personality type. And guess what? I had a business partner that helped me. I'm just trying to choose my words carefully, or getting the business rolling. Because an INFJ, I'm going to put that there because INFJs are good at acquisitions, but they may struggle with the business operations. So INFJ will be great at acquisitions, but struggles with the business part of it, right? So, but they can do it, but these people would do it, but will struggle to get started. So behind the eight ball a little bit. So INTP, that's my personality type, and that's probably why I'm so good at this, guys, because I'm not a natural fit at this. So I literally had to consume so much information and get to the point where I knew this stuff just like the back of my hand because it's not natural or second nature to me. Sales, nothing. Like I'm pretty good at sales, but real estate sales, I didn't have confidence up until like 2017 to talk to sellers. Like I would be shaking talking to sellers 2015, 2016, because I didn't feel like, unless I knew everything about the business, I didn't feel competent. Right. And like I could stand my own because I didn't want the seller to get me in a gotcha. But my business partner, he was an INFJ, and he was able to he had a gift for gab. He could go in unprepared. I had to have all my notes prepared. Look at the house when the seller, would call my cold call team. I would have to look at the house and make sure, I knew what was selling around it. So if they tried to tell me they want it higher, I can tell them the certain prices just to anchor them right at a lower price. My business partner, he didn't need to do that at all. I couldn't just go in there blind. Now I can, because I put in the 10,000 hours, but before, when I first started 10 plus years ago, I couldn't. Okay, so yeah, I'll do INTP there. Yeah, we could put ESTJ and ESFJ here. Okay, so I'm going over all of them. So we could do ESFJ and then ESTJ. And now, guys, the last bit here is just not a good fit for business ownership or real estate. I know one ISFP, but for the most part, guys, ISFPs just they're not a good fit. And the one ISFP that I know, guess what, guys? He does not like being on the phone. He has somebody else handle the phone stuff for him. So anything with I even think dealing with buyers, he doesn't deal with. So he basically just has a business and he's just up top and he's outsourced everything. He doesn't talk to sellers, he doesn't talk to buyers or anything. I think maybe here and there, but he's a rare ISFP. ISFJ, no. I had an INFP client. Oh my God, bro, one of the worst clients I ever worked with. Blow my freaking brains out, dude. Like, I don't know, just complaining all the time. I don't know why the seller won't do. Why would the seller yell at me? The seller, this seller, bro, dude, go write a book. Not a good personality type for this. And yeah, I'd put it out there, guys. I put it there. Yeah, that's a great question. So Ty, I think you're an ENFJ, so you're pretty natural to do this. You're natural to do this, but definitely, guys, ENTPs, hands down, the best ones at the business. Best ones. Great questions, guys. All right, guys, we've gone quite a bit here. I appreciate you guys jumping on here impromptu. I'm going to make this a series because I think you guys are eating this up. Just let me know here or on Facebook what you guys want to cover in this 7-figure $1 million real estate series, because there's a lot for us to go over. I know I could go over the onboarding process, SOPs, what it looks like whenever we're bringing on employees, or even take you guys behind the scenes on my Slack workspace and maybe some of the tools I'm using. So we can definitely do that. Let me see if there's any questions that I missed. Or actually, I did have a question here, guys. I might need to do this later. It was on the KPIs. So I might do that on another live, or maybe just doing a post for Nate. So Nate, if you're watching, I'm going to handle that later. He was just asking if we could go over the KPI metrics. That will be a whole hour training. And my goal here was to go over the 7-figure business model. So I went over the team hierarchy, the owner's roles, and basically your success is dependent on bringing and retaining people. I think the next thing I'm going to do, guys, is going to be centered around not just bringing people on, but the onboarding process. So let me make a note here. that might be like onboarding and retention, because I know a lot of you guys are hiring great people, but are you retaining them? Super important here. Super important. Last thing I'll go ahead and do, guys, here, I want to show you guys one more thing. Is you guys have probably seen this on my Facebook and via email, and I've direct messaged some of you guys. So I'm keeping this up till tomorrow. So I'm having my annual sale. I usually do one once a year. Sometimes it's in Christmas, but I want to do it in the summer because a lot of you guys are active in the summer. So I'm doing a bit of a fire sale right now. So if you guys want to work with me, now's the time, right? So this ends tomorrow, and I'm not making exceptions because there's been people that already purchased it. So guys, if you don't take advantage, it's going away. So it's going to go back up because I'm not about to, it wouldn't be fair to the people that purchase already and will purchase to offer a discount right later. So this is essentially now or never. If you want list pulling, normally it's $21.97, going for $9.97. That's my premium skip tracing and list pulling. Guys, my list, they get 4 deals at a minimum over a quarter. If you know what you're doing, you'll get 4 deals. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll get 2. If you really don't know what you're doing, you'll get 1. I could guarantee that with my list. REI Reply Turbo Setup Essentials Plan. So that's my $3,000 plan where we set up, guys, your REI Reply account. Usually it's $3,000. It's $1,500. Already had several people. It was 3 people that already took advantage of this. So my one with the list pulling, usually for $4,700, that's $2,300. And then my acquisition support program, this is my flagship program. This I usually sell it for $17,997. And guys, yes, people pay me that in wires up front. So that's going for $10,000 right now. Same program, and that's where I'm hiring your cold callers, your lead managers, admin, VA. Doing your REI Reply setup. So your REI Reply setup with your 10,000 record list pool is included. Insane value, guys. Insane value. And how you heard me talking about how I'm running the businesses, that's essentially what I'm doing with that program. So my hourly rate, once I sell it at $10,000, will be half of that, but that's fine. I really want you guys getting rolling. So if you guys are interested, send me a message, or you can also go click this QR code up here on working with my team, and then I'll give you a call tomorrow. But again, guys, I'm not extending it after tomorrow, so it's basically 24 hours that you have. So I'm going to go over, check my messages, and then I'm going to check and see if I have anything on the Facebook group, because sometimes the Facebook group doesn't show me the questions and comments I have. Okay, cool. All right, guys, looks like I got to everything. Again, thank you guys for joining me on this Saturday night. Means a lot that you guys join me on this Saturday night. I will talk with you guys later. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of this, and happy investing. Go crush it. Go forth. Do great things. Bye.